visitors. It's my honor and privilege to speak to you today on this Veterans Day. As Ms. Gold told you, my name is Mark Shug. I currently serve on the Falcon School Board of Education. I'm a father and a grandfather, a business owner and a citizen volunteer. And I'm also a veteran of the United States Army Military Police Corps. What is a veteran? A veteran is someone who during a specified period served in the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or Coast Guard. They all took a similar oath. In this oath, we raised our hand and said, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me. So help me God. One author put it this way: a veteran is someone who at one point in his life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their life. Ask any vet, and most will tell you that they're not heroes. They're just ordinary guys, regular men and women who did the job their country asked them to do. When I was your age, my image of vets were the men who raised the flag on Iwo Jima, who drove the tank in Patton's army, who liberated the concentration camps, those who sailed the ships and flew the bombers and fighters that won the Second World War. My grandfather is a World War II vet. He's 94 years old now, and he and my grandmother have a home just a few miles from here in Briargate. When he was a young man in World War II, he drove a truck, a supply truck for the medical company in Patton's Third Army. And he was there during the Battle of the Bulge. His unit liberated and saved our boys that were trapped in a place called the Stone. My wife's father, Ray Jackson, served aboard the USS Pillsbury. He was the sonar operator. He was involved in the capture of the first German submarine that was captured during the Second World War. Those were the vets, the role models of my generation. For this generation, the vets of today include those men and also those who fought in the jungles of Vietnam and in the deserts of the Middle East. All took a similar oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I recently saw a documentary on pilots who were shot down in North Vietnam and held in a POW camp under terrible conditions. They were there for many years, some of them. When they were finally released, after they had been reunited with their families, who do you suppose they wanted to thank first? The President? Congress? The guys who negotiated their release? No, the first guy one pilot looked up, after all those years, and called up to thank was the guy who packed his parachute the day he was shot down. That man did his job and saved my life, he said. Veterans are like that. They look out for one another. What is a veteran? Here's what one veteran had to say. Some veterans bear visible scars of their service, a missing limb or a jagged scar, or a certain look in their eye. Except in parades, however, the men and women who have kept America safe wear no badge or emblem. You can't tell a vet just by looking. He's the cop on the beat who spent 6 months in Saudi Arabia, sweating 2 gallons a day to make sure the armored personnel carrier he was responsible for didn't run out of fuel. He or she is the nurse who fought to save the wounded. He's the POW who went away one person and came back another, or didn't come back at all. He's the Quantico drill instructor who has never seen combat, but he has saved countless lives by turning slouchy, no-account rednecks and gang members into Marines and teaching them to watch each other's backs. He's the old guy bagging groceries at the supermarket, bent with age now and moving a little slower. But as a young man, it was he who helped liberate the Nazi death camps. He is an ordinary and yet an extraordinary human being, a person who offered some of his life's most vital years in the service of his country, and who sacrificed his ambitions so others would not have to sacrifice theirs. So the soldiers of yesterday are the veterans of today. Why should that be important to you? Do you believe in liberty? Do you understand that you live in the greatest, freest country in the history of humankind? That all other countries before the United States gave powers to the state, and men and women were subject to kings and rulers, and that any right granted to men and women were granted by the grace of the king or the grace of government. But when our Declaration of Independence culminated in our Constitution, a new nation was formed, conceived in liberty. Our Declaration of Independence boldly states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." That's us. Just last week we went and had an election and elected those who will serve us as our leaders. So it is not the state, but from God, from whom our rights as free men flow. And our rights are protected by the Constitution, which limits not the power of the citizen, but the power of our government. So if the Constitution protects us, who protects the Constitution? The men and women of the United States Armed Forces who have taken the oath to do so. Think of this. We're all taught in American history that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, that he authored and signed the Emancipation Proclamation in January of 1863. But the day after that proclamation was signed, how many slaves were freed? 0. A week and a month later, how many? 0. It was the men who wore the blue uniform of the Union Army, the men who swore an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States that freed the slaves. As the Union Army advanced, more and more slaves were freed. Without the Union Army to enforce it, the Emancipation Proclamation and our Constitution were just eloquent words on paper. But with dedicated men who pledged their lives to defend it, and a brave and wise president to write it, the Emancipation Proclamation became a reality, freeing by Union forces over 4 million people by war's end. So remember, it is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the citizen soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to demonstrate. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protesters who burn the flag. Because it is a soldier who protects the Constitution and thereby protects all those who benefit from the terms and rights enumerated by that Constitution. So I'd like to close my remarks today by quoting to you probably the most eloquent words ever spoken about veterans by President Abraham Lincoln in his Gettysburg Address when he was asked to dedicate the cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where a great battle was held. And he began his speech by saying that 407 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the principle that all men are created equal. And the last paragraph of that speech closes thus. It is from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. I say today that I'm proud to have served my country, I'm not a hero. I'm just one more ordinary American who was part of a team who did what I was asked to do, and who was proud to have worn the same uniform as the true heroes who fought and died, so that this government of the people, by the people and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.